I am live from Phoenix, Arizona with one of my idols and role models, Jay Geier.
Nice.
I'm sure you already know who Jay Geier is. He needs no introduction, but I got to tell you the long story about Jay Geier. So my best friend, who's a dentist that I went to Creighton University with in Omaha, Nebraska from 88 to 83, was Tom Mattern, and we practiced up the street from each other. We both had 4 kids. Him and his wife would babysit my 4 kids every Friday night, and then they dumped theirs off at my house every Saturday night when they were young. And he told me to sign up for the Scheduling Institute probably for about 3 years. And my thick skull wasn't listening. And then Tim Taylor, remember Tim Taylor?
Oh, yeah, sure.
But basically, Steve Jobs said that a CEO isn't a leader unless he's an innovator. And what I like about you is you completely innovated something out of nowhere. You weren't a Me Too product. And what it was I went to 9 years of college to become a dentist. Hygienists go to 4 years of college. My dental assistant, Jan, who's been with me since day one, 28 years. I went to a year-long Apollo Dental College. Yeah. And these receptionists, they were just picked up off the street. They came from banking and finance and restaurants. And it was just amazing how you saw the need to train the front desk. And what you did for me, I'll just tell you what you actually did for me is you started recording our phone calls. Yeah. And then I would go in there with the office manager and your consultant, and we'd listen to them. And I'd listen to, and these are team members who have been with me for 10, 15, 20 years.
Well intended.
Questions like, do you do Invisalign? We used to, but I don't think we do that anymore. And we're just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Right. And so your dentist just assumes that since he loves Veronica and she's been with him for 10 or 15 years, she obviously just knows all the right, and there's no management, there's no measurement, there's no accountability. And this is what I believe that you did to my house. This is what I personally believe. I believe that about every four people that called up and said, hey, Dr. Jay Geier, I just moved to town and I was wondering how much I need a crown. How much does a crown cost? That's $1,000. Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. Right. Bye. And then now, post the Scheduling Institute, it'd be like, well, that's a great question. There's a lot of different kinds of crowns. We're at the corner of 48th and Elliott and Safeway. When could you come down? Because if you came down, I'll have Dr. Farran come in to look at it. He'll tell me what kind of crown, and then I'll tell you how much. And so we changed nothing.
Show up. Yeah.
We changed nothing, and our new patients doubled. Yeah. And patient flow is cash flow. And buddy, I owe all that to you.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that.
And I also got to tell you one thing. You got some critics.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so funny how your critics, the only thing they can criticize John is, he advertises too much. Like, dude, you don't do any advertising. And the reason the advertising offends you is because you just don't like advertising and you don't do advertising. And that is your problem. I mean, the problem, how can you be an American and not like advertising?
Hey, but let's just cut to the chase on that. The truth of the matter is, what everybody wants is conformity, right? And what's really funny, and I've done a lot of studying about this to try to help myself, because I always wanted to be the best at certain things. And being the best comes with a price, and the price is always judgment. And it's just so interesting how that judgment is something that people throw around quite liberally, right? And it usually is about something that they truly don't understand. And you're right. But I love that. To me, that's almost invigorating, right? And for me, marketing is almost like a donation. I'm a very generous person, so I look at marketing as a donation to try to help somebody. And then, so for every 5 that judge me, I get to 1, and I'll take those odds any day, right? I'll take that cost. A person who does nothing judging doesn't really affect me. It's the one that takes action, like you were describing yourself.
Well, it's funny because in society, people will call you selfish if you're not following their self-interest.
Correct.
So if you're following my self-interest, you're generous. Yeah. And if you're following your self-interest and I don't like it, now you're selfish. But yeah, cool. I think that there's so many things that the successful dentists do that the non-successful don't. And a lot of it is stuff that you can't control. Like every dental consultant's told me that being born in the United States is a huge negative. The dentists that come out of these dental schools that were young and hungry in Asia.
Sure.
They have twice the work ethics in America. A dentist coming out of school that wasn't born in the United States is going to double what some American kid grew up on a couch. Another one is the dentists who take 100 hours of CE every year. Yeah. But I want to ask you, this is one of the biggest debated questions.
Okay.
How much, whether or not a dentist should spend advertising. And I see dentists that spend zero on advertising. I see experts saying you should spend 3% of collection on advertising. Some say you should spend 6%. But I do know this: the dentists who don't spend money on advertising, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, let me flip it upside down for you. One of the things that I've always approached it in a little bit of a different way. And so there's a formula, right? And it's kind of interesting, if you think about it, if you're either a dentist or you see yourself as a business owner, there are formulas. And I know you're a guy who you are such a history buff, and right? I mean, you love data and facts and history, and I've heard you have such a great ability to connect that to the future, And what I always did is I realized in studying business that there are just principles, right? And so one of the things that is true is that if you want to have a successful business, that business is going to have to over-deliver to the patient or to the customer, whatever it is, right? It's going to have to be faster, better, but you have to focus on value. So the way I look at it is a little bit different than a typical dentist would look at it. I look at it as a business. If you have a business that over-delivers, so if you take money from somebody and you can give them more in service value, you now have a business that you have a great future in. And so when you think about the price of changing a smile, you can't tell me that's if it costs $25,000 to just make someone confident and comfortable and smiling, what that will do for the remainder of their life is not worth $25,000. It is, I don't want to say priceless because that's not real, but you and I both know that's life-changing stuff, right? But they don't look at it that way, right? And so what I would challenge people of is I believe the percentage that you spend to market is indicative to the value you think you create. So, which is the exact opposite of how they perceive it. So for instance, if you believe your company creates great value, then you would by choice. See, Steve Jobs spent more than other people to market, right? But they create more. Don't you think every one of their products is, your iPhone is way worth more than you paid for it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's why they market, right? And so what I would get people to think about is forget the percentages for a minute. Look at your percentages as a level of commitment to help people. I mean, what portion if your business is good, what portion should you give back to regenerate new customers or clients, right? And it's not 3%. That's ridiculous. 3% is a very minimal number, right? But
that's how much they give to American Express for the use
of their
card.
That's right. So it depends really what you're trying to do, right? But what I would try to do is I would just tell you that, we look at financials for dentists, and it's amazing how they don't know how to put their money in the right area. Marketing is a place that is an investment, and it provides a super great return, but they just don't look at it that way. They take it personally, like it's somehow a failure of their clinical skills. So here's what you ought to do. You ought to spend to the number of new patients you want. And there's actually a formula for that. I mean, if you want 100, then spend to get 100. If you want 200, spend to get 200. But keep upping what you spend, because it's kind of like that giving back part, right? Take some of the profits off the last patient you had, who hopefully you over-delivered to, and let those then help generate the next patient you get to help. This is a different way to look at it. They're looking at it backwards.
And when you look at their numbers, where do you think there's misallocating money?
Well, first of all, what you'll actually see is if you're spending 2-3% on marketing, those are not growth numbers. Those are actually go backwards numbers, okay? That'll take you backwards, okay? So then what ends up happening, if you think about it, is most of where they spend money, so think about it this way. If you run a corporation, what you should do is you should buy things that pay for themselves and then create a profit. So all the money you spend should pay for itself and then make a profit, right? Now, all my products do that because I made them that way, but I'll have people who buy them and they figure out how not to make that happen. If you look at a collection, let's use $100,000 in collections, and let's say the doctor has a 25% margin. So what happens is, he's spending 75, he's got 25% margin. and he goes and buys something today. Most of the time, what they do, Howard, is they spend their margin. So if you don't know how to turn, there's three things they got to know. There's money, there's time, and there's energy. So every time you buy anything, right, if it's equipment or supplies or whatever, if you don't know the correlation between money, time, and energy, how to flip it into a profitable thing, they eventually spend all their margin. And so the next thing you know, and by the way, if you know your margin, when the United States government forces you to reconcile your money, there's no intention in your life whatsoever. You know, a lot of people don't know their margin until they have to do their taxes.
Yeah.
So you go all year just spending money, not paying attention here, not paying attention here. So they think that throwing money at things is how you make money. That's not how you do it. Money is the least important part. It's energy, and understanding the correlation of time and return is what you have to understand. And so what I'll see, that I think, you'll notice that, so for instance, I'll give you an example. Human capital, which is manpower, it pays for itself. So when you add a new person, typically they will pay for themselves and make a profit. So they won't add people because they don't have money to add people. Marketing pays for itself, makes a profit, right? New operatories pays for itself. So guys in 3 operatories after 20 years, you got to be kidding me, right? You never took any of the proceeds and reinvested it in the business. So it's understanding those certain areas. And by the way, equipment is not the thing. You can't just keep dumping money in equipment. I see them do that without even thinking about it, right? And then they're financing the equipment, right? They don't even pay cash for it.
I know.
They pay interest. So they take $150,000 of equipment they spend $200,000 on, and then not spend anything on marketing because they think it's below them. But
then they'll buy a $150,000 3D X-ray machine.
Yeah.
That the technology will be outdated in 5 years, when they could have just sent someone to a 3D X-ray center up the street for $150.
But they dream of that next piece of equipment solving the problem, and that's not what solves the problem. It's telling people who you are and what you do, and then delivering amazing service, just like, beyond what you expected. And so the other place that they underspend is in patient experience. I mean, we teach people to make a patient experience that just blows the patient away. And sometimes, I got clients who, you get to sit down in one of those chairs where you get that neck massage first. You got your paraffin wax. People do all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Cookies, paraffin wax. And what it has nothing to do with doing dentistry. It has to do with the over delivery. Do you get a water when you walk in? Do you get a welcome gift, right? So I tell people, it's like, you're in our building, right? And this is like where I spend money on our clients. You don't underspend on your clients. You don't underspend on your patients. So a lot of them are literally not spending any money to create a great experience, because it's really all you have, because you're probably not going to make a product. They're not going to perceive the work you do in their mouth having the same value as that phone. So it's going to be the experience that makes the difference.
I believe the new patient experience is probably the most underreported, undertaught, undertrained. And it's everything. And the dentist should know it just from going to his own doctors. When you go get a prostate exam, you go to PSA, you get your whatever. You feel like cattle.
Yeah.
And you don't ever leave your endocrinologist and go tell a friend, like, I just got wowed at the endocrinologist. You just leave that place like, wow.
Well, one of my favorite things to do, I always tell people, okay, there's a few places you need to go sit in your office, right? That most people never go to, all right? So let's pretend it's a male dentist. Do you know what they don't ever do? Go sit in the female restroom. On the commode, look around, find the dust, man. Because I'll tell you what, the big driver now is the female consumer, right? So if you want to know what it's like to go to your office, go sit on the female toilet in your office and see what you see. Because they look and see that behind your door, when all those dust balls come out, right, that's what they judge. Is that thing set up does it have everything that she would ever need in there, right? And then you go lay in your chairs and you look up in the ceiling, and you know what you find 9 out of 10 times? There's a fluorescent light or a direct light shining. And literally people give you glasses because instead of fixing the lights, what you ought to fix is the lights, so that when you look up, there's no light shining down on you, because that's what that room is designed for God's sakes, right? You kidding me? You can't find a fixture that doesn't shine in my eyes, one that just reflects back up. And then they're looking at how much dust is coming out of that vent, right? You haven't cleaned that vent in 7 years, right? I can see dust up there. But instead, you got their, I'm looking at the mouth, but they're looking up there and they're looking down there. And this is kind of an example of, go right now and look at those spots and see what you see.
And you got to spend money smart. Like every time I take my car in, the maintenance light comes in, an oil change or whatever, they always put me in my exact car if it was brand new.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then when I come back, they always tell me how much my bill is, and it'd be waived if I free bill, give them the keys of my car, and if I wrote them a check for X thousands, I could go home and have brand new. And the same money. And when you talk about this, not only are they not going for it, how do they believe in what they're doing, Jay, when they look into a mouth and they just diagnose one tooth? How come the most successful dentists are passionate? They want to spend more on equipment. They want to spend more on the new patient experience. They want to spend more on marketing. And when you come in, they look at your mouth and say, wow, okay, I'm excited. And to do this right, this is what we got to do. And they present whole mouth dentistry. And then the other 90% are like, well, which one is bothering you? And I'm sure you don't want to pay for anything because your house is free, your car is free, your clothes are free.
Do you have Chick-fil-A's here?
Yes.
So, we have one of their training videos, right? And it is I'm trying to remember what it is. So we got a hold of one of their training videos, right? And Chick-fil-A is a fast food company.
Explain it for our international viewers.
Okay, so it's a company kind of like a McDonald's you would think of, or Burger King, but it's called Chick-fil-A. And the owner, so they have this incredible quality fast food, but it's high service. So everything is, you go to the drive-thru, they say, my pleasure, right? So they've completely flipped up the model. And the kids that work there are these clean-cut kids, and they're learning good service, and it's just really an amazing process. But in their video, the training video that I watched, it's called Every Life Has a Story. And so they're panning from customer to customer, right? And so they're showing, so this person walks in and it says, okay, her husband of 52 years just passed away from cancer. She's very lonely. The next one cuts over to this young family, right? And it's a dad with the daughter, and it says, the mother was recently killed in a car accident, right? And what they're telling you, and they go through each of these stories, and by the time you get done with this thing, man, you are bawling, right? Because what they're telling you is what you can't see when you look at a human being, Howard, is there's a story behind everybody, man, and you don't know on what day that story is happening, and you don't know when you cross their path, but you got to treat people like people. Don't treat their teeth, right? I mean, across the street, I got 500 people over there. They're going to be over here tonight, right? These are people to me. Those are not dentists and clients. They're people with real moving lives and crises and opportunity. I mean, right? I mean,
and it's so self-absorbed, narcissistic when someone will go and they'll have an interaction at a restaurant or a waiter or a bartender or whatever, and they'll say that person, and they'll say something that person wasn't very nice or wasn't very good, and it's like, well, you don't know what that girl's going through.
Yeah, you don't know.
Maybe her mom just died yesterday. I mean, why? How narcissistic to think that it's about you? There's 7 billion people on the planet, and her bad attitude is about you.
But see, what I think, what occurs, and I believe that the majority of people, their office is all about them, and they want to say it's not, okay? And I will tell you right now, when you got a 3-day-a-week practice open till 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 days a week, that practice is 100% about you. And they got some balls to act like it's not, right?
I know.
And you've got a team that they don't know how to control. Let me give you a visual. I think you'll love this. Okay, I figured something out, right? So as a business owner, here's what you got to watch for. And this is funny. Like, I think you're going to love this, right? So here's what I've discovered. In a typical business, if you don't have a good leader, someone who is driving toward an intention, like with intention service, you know what happens? So in dentistry, the patient, right? And by the way, it's only who's always your most vocal patient, right? Your worst one. You ever notice that? So what's funny in a lot of businesses is they let the worst patient dictate the entire practice. So what you'll have is a person walks in and she says, I can't believe you don't accept my insurance. Bam, bam, bam. Well, it gets in the head of a frontline staff member, and the next thing you know, you got a business that's all about only inviting people in with the right kind of insurance. And the truth is, if you diagnose where it came from the fact that a crappy patient, one that would bitch about anything that ever goes on in their life, who you have no future with, dictated the way you treat people, right? You were not doing it based on your best patient. Because if you think of, so you with me?
Yeah.
So it creeps in all of a sudden. When we get a client who's not doing well, who's got like 5 new patients a month or 10 new patients a month, the truth is I know that the worst patients are dictating the rules of that. And even the staff is now being governed by the worst patient because they just want to avoid that from happening. And if you think about your best patient, like if you think about your best patient ever, I bet you it is the one that you did the most for and paid you the most and simultaneously had the greatest level of gratitude and referral and everything else for you. But people don't go try to find more of those. They cater to the lowest denominator, right? And the next thing you know, the practice is it's not that great.
And they don't understand it with lawsuits and car insurance. I mean, you have car insurance just in case you ever get in a car wreck. And I've been driving for 53 years. I've utilized my car insurance before. And in my whole 28 years, I always know one dentist at rock bottom because of one patient lawsuit or board complaint. It's like, why would you let that one patient in that one case? You've had this amazing practice, these amazing employees, and you literally can't scrape these dentists off the floor with a putty knife. I mean, they literally go into depression. Wow. I had one friend who was in full-blown depression for a year.
Because of
it's like, is your ego? I mean, and what you're saying is, why are you letting that one patient dictate your whole mind when you had so many amazing patients?
But what about not even thinking
imagine
about
getting
catering?
Imagine getting into your car, and every time you got in your car, you thought about the one time you wrecked your car.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree with you. But then you look at it and you say, okay, well, what does it take to be intentional, right? And so you would definitely have to market. Does that make sense? You would have to say, hey, we want these kind of people. The other thing that's interesting is why are people so uncomfortable saying to someone, this isn't a match? Why do we try to cater to everybody? You know, it's like, for me, I don't like people who want something for nothing. I find those to be very unattractive people to me. So when I can learn somebody wants something for nothing, I prefer not to have them in my life. I prefer to I have a system to make them go away, right? So, but a person who understands value, you have a great future with. So you think about patients, there tends to be 2 kinds of people, right? Ones who have the capability of appreciating what you do, and those that will never appreciate it no matter what you do. And I think a lot of people don't know how to distinguish between the two, and your business should cater to the good patient, not the one who will never give you credit for anything. There's just no future in that.
I mean,
right?
I don't know the secret to success, but I know the secret to failure is to try to be all things to all people.
That's exactly right.
You know, just focus on the people who appreciate you. But I want to ask you something, because I'm a dentist and you're a business person. Why do you think my homies, why do you think they hate the word selling? When I talk about how much you should advertise, Jay, I'm telling you at a fundamental level, I feel half of them don't even believe in advertising. It's like, okay, dude, every time you watch Monday Night Football, they have, there's advertising. I mean, I think the NFL did $9 billion in advertising last year.
Sure.
Why do dentists despise at a gut level marketing and advertising?
Well, but I really actually think that everyone despises it. And I think that, when you use the word selling, it has a negative connotation. So I believe that the majority of people have a negative connotation about selling. But at the end of the day, here's what you and I both know. You take a sales team out of a company, you take the marketing out of a company, you don't have a company.
Right.
And what's fascinating is, in dentistry, we're like so blessed to be able to make a living and do so many things wrong, right? But it isn't always going to stay that way, right? It is not going to stay that way. And so I think that you have a general negative connotation, and I think a lot of it is created by, selling Look, the truth of the matter about selling is there's a seller and a buyer. And the truth is nobody ever puts a gun to anybody's head and tells them they have to buy anything. So what I find so funny about it is all the cool things that you have in your life that you bought that you like, somebody sold them to you, for God's sakes. But the truth is it takes two parties. One says yes. See, people are kind of funny about that, right? But really the question is, are these really people who don't understand that you have to pay for good things in life too? So I think the cheapest people in the world, Howard, are the most judgmental about selling because they're unwilling to pay for good things, right? So a cheap person, by the way, is very challenged by marketing. They just rather judge it than understand what it is. But but I think it's just a general misunderstanding all the way. But what I find so funny is no salesperson has ever who has manipulated me, right? If I get my wallet out or my credit card out, I do that by choice. You didn't manipulate me, right?
Yeah. And that's why markets are so effective, because if everybody says, oh, this stock is a buy, someone else is like, well, you can buy mine, so.
But I think you got to get focused on the fact that we all in business, we all have a solution and somebody has a problem. So all you got to think about is that look at it in a different way, right? It's like, I like the definition of sales or marketing being telling people who you are and what you do, and then particularly going after and finding the people that are most suitable for what it is you do. They're like, in other words, the group that you're most likely to be able to solve their problem. And then if you understand the law of success, which is, hey, and then only do it when you can over-deliver. So I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. You should only really sell somebody something if you believe you can over-deliver, give them more than they paid for. It should up your willingness to
Absolutely. You always want to under-promise, over-deliver. I've been telling dentists for years that, someone will get a tooth pulled and they'll say, well, is this going to hurt afterwards? And they'll, no, you'll be fine. And then it hurts. If you tell them, that root was that long. I tell my patients, when this thing wears off, oh my God, you're going to wish you've never been born.
Yeah.
I set the bar low. Yeah. If they're just glad they're alive, I beat their expectations.
I love it.
But I want to ask you something, because when I told one of my friends I was going to go see you today.
Yeah.
He said to me a very good question that I want you to clarify. He says, "Well, is that considered internal marketing or external marketing? Because if you're educating my receptionist how to answer calls, close calls, get more people in the chair, technically that would you call that internal marketing?"
You know what they think? So here's what they think, okay? So let me just clarify two things. Number one, I want your listeners to know and you to know I make no one do what I do. Does that make sense? So when people judge me, I never teach people to do what I do because I know they don't have it in them. I know they would never do what I do. So it's kind of funny. People get the perception that I'm going to teach them to do what I do. I teach no one to do what I do. You can have a dental practice. You don't have to do any of the stuff I do. I'm a different guy, man. I got a bigger mission. You can get 100 new patients and not even begin to cause a wave in your community whatsoever. So it's very important you understand there's a distinction between people judge and think I'm going to teach them what I do. I never teach dentists what I do. I do that for me. Now you jump to a dentist. The reality is, and I've been teaching this for years, we barely sometimes ever get into external marketing because you don't even have to if you get the inside right. And what people's perception is that the only way I should change this is because I'm doing marketing. That is not true. The truth of the matter is it's so stinking easy to get 100 new patients in dentistry. You can do it with almost not even sending a single thing out. It's crazy how easy it is, but they don't know how to do it. So when we work off of you start with the most conservative thing you can, all right? You start with fixing your human capital. I can double and triple people's practices without here was my original claim, 10 to 40% increase in new patients, okay? No marketing or advertising in 90 days or less. So I did that without you don't have to send a piece, you don't have to send an email, you don't have to do anything. All you got to do is get your people to follow the correct process. Now, when the guy gets a little increase, he goes, oh, now I want a little more. We can add some marketing, but I rarely teach people how to do external marketing because it isn't even necessary, and I can double and triple their new patients. They just have a blockage, right? It's like people would never have the you know what's to do what I do. I could never teach people to do what I do. There's just like...
It's funny, they think that you have to buy a $150,000 CAD cam to be successful.
No.
$150,000 CBCD 3D, a $75,000 laser, and do all this external marketing. And you and I can give them names of 100 dentists doing $1 million a year who don't have a laser, don't have a CAD cam, don't advertise external, don't do any of this stuff, but they've got the players on the team, and they have intention, they're motivated, they're fired up, and they're crushing it, and they don't have anything that everyone listening thinks they have to be successful.
And you know what else is crazy? Like, we have clients all over the world, and the craziest thing to me is, I mean, I got clients, you go to their town, and you think, where the hell are the people, right? You're just like, where are the people? And the guy will be getting 200 new patients. There's like not even 200 people in the county, but he's getting 200 patients a month. I don't want to encourage everybody who's in a small town out there who thinks, well, there's no patients. Those are some of the best practices to really just go through the roof that we've ever seen, because, and I don't know where they come from. So when a guy's in Manhattan, I mean, you just look out your door and there's...
So what do you think the fired up, motivated dental office staff is doing to get new patients when it's not about showing off a CAD cam or a laser, or they don't have a billboard or direct mail or Facebook page posting every 5 minutes, and they're people. So you have this small town we're talking about. Here's a dental office with 5 people and a dentist, 2 receptionists, 2 assistant hygienists, and here's another one. But this one's doing twice as much as this one, and this one is in debt with all this high-priced lasers.
They can have all their crap in there. They can have everything. But you know what happens is, it's like when you and I walk into a business, right? You said this to me one other time. You said, you can feel it, right? And the truth is, and let me tell you what the feel is, right? You feel, this is what I like to think of it as. This office, okay, the bad one, you know what it's about? It's about the doctor.
Right.
You probably had to beg to get in there. They probably told you that. It's like when you walk into a place and there's like 13 reserved tables, and they say, no, we don't have any tables. And you go, well, there's tables. Like, there's a whole place of tables. She goes, it's going to be 20 minutes, right? Really? Okay. This office you walk into, it's about you. Everything is engineered backwards to make you feel like it's about you. You walk in, you get a water, they have your paperwork pre-filled out, no windows, none of that crap, right? You got computers to play with if you have to wait. I mean, you go, wow, what is going on here? You go right back, you don't wait, right? You figured out how not to make a bunch of people wait in a room awkwardly. You figured out how to get them in. And you walk out with a gift, and I mean, it just feels like, what the heck just happened here? If you see, most dentists, even though they think they're so smart, the data about people being afraid to go to the dentist, it's astronomical. We don't print enough about it. We don't talk about it enough. The data, it's like in the top 10 fears of all of society is to go to the dentist. But if you look at how these people communicate or what they do when you walk into an office, they do not deal with patients that are afraid. Does that make sense? They don't. They think they do. They're so self-centered, they have nothing. When you say, well, explain to me how, well, like, show me one thing you do to prove to a patient that it doesn't hurt, right? And that's what happens in this office. And here, we're just not going to address that, right? And I think that's hard to create because it's culture, Howard, and it comes from the leader. Right? That's why we've had to do it for a lot of people, because they just don't have the capability. So when we train a team, we can train a team to do this, but if you don't know how to do it yourself, it's very difficult to put in place. And so what happens is they walk out and they tell a friend, and then that person comes and they tell a friend, and then and it is really that easy at the end of the day, but it's only when you get it right.
So you almost have to be Dr. Phil though to consult a dentist, because you really got to get inside their head. Because the dentist is the problem.
Yeah, but one of the things we figured out, I remember I used to go into offices, right? And I can remember the first thing that would happen is the receptionist would say, come here. She'd go, I'm so glad you're here. He's got a lot of problems. But before you get started, I just want you to know that I don't have any time to do anything, but he needs help. And so I was like, oh man, this is going to be trouble. So I started going into offices and I would say, psst, come here. I said, hey, when I get done today, you might be making like 200 extra bucks a month, but you got to do what I tell you to do. And she goes, no problem. She never said anything about time after that, right? And so now I train her, and all of a sudden she's like, psh. And so she doubles or triples the new patients, because the truth of the matter is, if you don't reverse engineer this, you walk into an office and say, hey, look, let's double the new patients. The only thing she's thinking is, crap, why would I double the new patients? It's twice the amount of work. you got to give them a reason to want to do it first, right? Humans need a reason to do things. And it's not just because their boss wants them to do it. You know, the other reality of it is sometimes a doctor is so consumed, you know, basically, eventually, if you cut me loose with the staff, you'll be in the way because you'll want to go home at 5 and we'll have patients to keep you there till 7. So the other thing a lot of guys don't realize is how you got to work around that, right? Good business should not be blockaded by the owner or their willingness to work. So anyways, you can work around them to a degree.
So what do you so tell the people who have don't know what you do at your scheduling. Tell them specific. Do you have an intro program? Do you have a
so look?
Tell them what
it's a lot different than people perceive. So what they'll see typically on the front is they'll see, you know, if you go to our site, Scheduling Institute or whatever, you'll see you can fill in and you can request information. And so the first thing I would always do, right? And remember, everyone hearing this says, I don't need this, I got this. But I know fundamentally that this is the cheapest increase that you can get. So what I typically ask people to do is I say, let me do the thing I like to do first. Let's see what kind of result it gets. Then decide how you want to escalate up, right? So like the guys that you saw in the room we got going on over there, those are clients that are going 5 times. So we're in a full service capacity with them. I'm coaching their teams at our university. We have our trainers going into their office 8 times over 2 years. They're coming to see me once a quarter. They're getting coaching. I mean, we're turning those businesses into amazing businesses, but they didn't start that way. The reason they got there is they bought our new patient program. So I don't do phone training. I never have. We're in the new patient business. So you say, okay, so when you come in, when I send you that package that shows how your person does, it's not about training them on the phone. See, everyone's tried to copy me, and they literally have all these new things now where people say, we do phone training. You know, I've never done phone training. We're in the new patient business. So people hire me to get new patients. And so I created a way where we track what you get. We train your people, then they track it, and you can see the return. So I walk in and you got 5, I take you to 10. I mean, that's an amazing return, what you get for the remainder of your life. So typically what we suggest is we have 2 main options. One is a self-study kit, and it's less than $2,000, and you can literally install it. Okay, but people who can't install, or people who do not have any control of their staff, should not buy the self-study kit, because every other thing they bought that they're supposed to implement, they've yet to implement it. So you don't buy that when you're horrible at self-study. If you're good at self-study, you can buy that. The next solution we created was what we call an on-site training. And what that does is that allows us to get live with your people. And so we recommend that for people. The only reason you'd buy the self-study course is if your budget was just so limited that you wanted to start. But you got to understand, there, as you know, right, some people are good at that, others can't do anything. And what you'll see is our first deliverable is an increase in new patients. And Howard, you know, a lot of people right now are out there and they have problems, but you know what they've somehow disconnected is they don't think that new patients is the answer to their problems. Have you ever noticed that? They think it's all these other things. If you trace back okay, so you got a guy under stress. Why is he under stress? Because he doesn't have enough money, right? He can't control his team, right? I mean, you look at what every problem, I mean, with the exception of real personal problems, almost all of them get fixed by ratcheting up your new patients. But if you went and interviewed people, they'll say, I don't need new patients. I've never seen anything like it. Like, I can't figure out why they have such a disconnect. So I like the first solution to be, let's increase your new patients. Then I prove my value, and then you come to one of my seminars. Then you become a coaching client. But I want people to move up based upon their success and a small initial investment where I'm able to prove return. I never like people to get more than they need. I want to prove returns as we go. So we just typically ask people to start, let us show you the new patient process first. And then after that, you can move up. And there's lots and lots of things that we do, obviously. And
so, but basically, repeating what you said, if you get the inside people on the right track, you don't even need the billboards and the radios. And
no. There's no reason for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, you got to think about this. Like, I probably have the biggest laboratory. So I have right now between 6,000 and 7,000 staff who come and attend our universities, right? I have clients all over the world, everything from, people with 5 new patients to as much as, 4. I have a client the other day, we did a profile on him. He's over 400 new patients a month. And so it's like this wonderful laboratory, right? I got 250 spouses over there that you saw, or actually maybe it's a little more than 300 spouses. So guys going 5 times. So what is kind of fun is that I really sort of get my pulse on a big scale of what's occurring, right? And so what we're learning is that there's not much leadership in dental offices. So what we're now doing is getting offices big enough that we're actually creating a real leadership. We're dismantling that old office manager process and developing real leadership teams in offices, which is a lot of fun, right? We're learning that that a lot of people don't have the capacity to add associates. I mean, I just have all these different tests going on and these high level, sort of really beyond what most people would ever think is possible kind of activities occurring. Now that's what I mostly do, but you got to kind of come in and do the new patient thing first.
Yeah, and and the other thing the dentist needs is they need motivated. And what always helped me the most, going to your institute, there is eagles fly with eagles, turkeys fly with turkeys. And when you're going through an institute and you meet some local buddies, you kind of start, if everybody you hang out with just sits there and says, well, there's nothing you can do. Yeah. The president's horrible. The economy is horrible. The whole world's horrible. And then you hang with those people. You just don't get out of it. But when you go to these institutes and you hang out with people that are just going for it, I was always surprised that, like, when I went to the Mission Institute, I probably learned more stuff about my practice that was non-implant related. And
Well, but I have a little take on it, right? And my take is that it's a weird deal. Dentists are, and this because this is like you're this industry. If you think about it, okay, so they go to these shows, right? And it's funny. I think people get the impression that, first of all, like, we don't do CE. And the reason I don't do CE, because legitimately you cannot teach the correct things and give CE. So when you go to CE, you are getting, CE has to be done, but don't confuse yourself and think that was the best money-making advice you can get, because you can't give it and actually give credit. You got to give content about something that, because you literally, if you read it, right, for instance, if the CE board came to what I'm teaching people, they'd say, we can't give you CE. Because it's the stuff that it's the actual real money-making stuff. And you can only get a limited amount of CE for that stuff. So people have this confusion. They falsely think sometimes because they do X amount of CE, that is, right? I was sitting with some lawyers the other day, and they were, kind of asking me questions about, being successful, right? And I said, well, what'd you guys spend on your education? And so he goes, like $100,000. I said, okay, well, you're about a 1.9 million less than I've spent on mine. So you got some more money to spend, right? And it's understanding specialized knowledge. So, right? So the amount of money that I spend to develop, because I buy anything and everything that I need when I come to a crossroads, the best that is available, and it comes at a high price. And I was trying to tell the guys, like, look, I probably spent $2 million post-college on self-development over my life. And that's the difference between you and me. You stop the minute you got out, and he does his X number of hours of CE, and that's it. And then you can't stay with the same people. So these guys are going dental convention to dental convention to dental convention, because eventually a guy gets a $2 million practice. He shows up at a dental convention and he thinks he's like the ticket. Man, come hang out with guys like me, like entrepreneurs, and all of a sudden you feel like small potatoes. Whenever you think you're the smartest guy in the room, you need to find a new room quick, because you can't. It's dangerous.
So Jay, what was your thinking? Everybody knows you from Atlanta, Georgia. That's where you're born.
Well,
bred,
most of them
raised.
probably don't know me because they judge me. They just get my marketing and think that they don't need me because they're so smart. You didn't know that?
What made you go west of the Mississippi River, come out to my hometown of Phoenix, Arizona? What made you come out here?
So, what was happening is I would show up at my workshops and there would be a guy in the front, and he would come up to me and say, "Oh, sorry, I'm really tired." I was like, "What is it?" And he goes, "Well, I'm from California. I took the red eye here." And I was like, "Ugh." And I mean, I was bringing so many people from California, from Phoenix to Atlanta to our place. I just decided, and when we opened up a building there, it was just like a great success, right? It was like we developed this building where people could come, spend the day together, and it was fantastic. And so I just felt like the right thing for me to do to kind of serve. And again, it's an example of I did not want to travel here, Howard, but it was what I needed to do for the clients, right? I said, you know what? I need to make a guy from California to be able to take an hour flight, show up here in the morning, and be home that night to his family. And it was probably going to mean that I had to make some trips to the West Coast, but I felt like that was the right thing to do. So this is really our center for serving everybody in the West Coast, and then also having the great opportunity when it's cold.
Yeah.
Right? People want to come here in the winter, right?
Big time.
107 out there today.
And you know what's bizarre is the dentists who love Phoenix the most in winter. It's always New York and New Jersey.
Oh,
they just fill.
And
this
the Midwest
place up.
guys, I'm surprised how many.
So in the
too.
summer,
Yeah.
you're the Georgia. That's the South. Who's more hot and miserable in the summer? Phoenix or Atlanta, Georgia?
Well, it's different.
Yeah.
It's different. But now I bought a place out here, and it's different. We're sweating, and you guys are getting that blowing heat that you can barely breathe in, right? Just a little different, but
yeah,
it's good. We're looking forward to it, right? We're excited about the place. We got a big party here tonight, kind of like a grand opening with clients, and so we're just, look, for me, it's all about figuring out how we can serve people in a way that makes sense and making it more accessible for them. And
I want to ask you a different question, take you down a different road.
Yeah.
When I got out 20 years ago, maybe the person doing the most marketing was an innovative dentist.
Mm-hmm.
Now the person is competing against a corporation that might have a marketing department. How has marketing changed now that corporate dentistry is in the game? Do you think corporate dentistry is going to spend more on marketing? Do you think it's going to be more sophisticated? Does that change any of the marketing for the individual dentists? What are your thoughts on that?
We're convinced that there's a few things that we're teaching our doctors to do. And so the first one is we're teaching them to broaden the opportunity of providing service. So like a lot of my clients now, we've engineered a cradle to grave arrangement. So they were originally general dentists. And then what they did is they bought a bigger building, and then I told them, I said, don't get rid of your old building. I said, keep your old building. I said, well, what am I going to put in there? I said, I want you to put an orthodontist in there. And the next thing you know, they built an ortho and a pediatric clinic, and then they have their main, and we literally now, they've created this multidisciplinary thing. And then in big facilities that we're doing, we're creating multidisciplinary. So marketing is making them not have to go places is marketing. Right? I mean, that they don't see it that way, but that's literally marketing, right? And then the second thing that we're doing is culture. If you think about dentistry, there was no culture. And culture gets created when you invest enormous amounts of money in raising the expectations on the people who work for you. So if you look at great companies that have great culture, they're training companies, right? The Ritz-Carlton is a training company. It's not a hotel company. They just happen to be in the hotel business. The Four Seasons is a training company. And so where we're making our play right now is we're saying, look, the one thing that corporate dentistry is having a harder time doing, culture on a big scale is rough. Culture under one roof, if you're willing to spend the money, can be achieved. And that's really marketing. That's where we're making the play. We're not telling people to send out postcards and massive levels and all this kind of stuff. We're saying just make your place. I mean, that's marketing. Whatever you spend in that waiting room, that's marketing, right? And that's where people are they don't make the connection sometimes. If you have the culture right, a person walks in, gets treated, and then walks right out and multiplies themselves every time. But if they're walking into your office now and they're not multiplying,
what do you think of the thing you always read that ask their patients for referrals? What would you say to dentists?
Oh, they don't have the courage to do it.
Right. So do you even try to?
I used to do a lot of work with chiropractors, and we train chiropractors to do it, and that's how they double their business. I think that if you don't have a lot of money, tomorrow morning you start asking your patients for referrals, and you'll crush.
But how would she actually do that? Because she's shy, she's an introvert.
Those are called excuses. Yep. we all have to work around our deficiencies, right? I mean, we all have them, right? I'm just being honest. I mean, I think to say, people love to say that, but the truth, look, if you don't have any money, if you have money, go market. You'll crush. Send out some postcards. You can put some things in mailboxes, right? You'll do really well. Okay, you don't have any money, then you got to go high confront, which is, why don't you ask this next patient for a referral? Or maybe you just pay your staff to ask them if you don't have the courage. How about that? How about telling your staff for every time that somebody comes in from a referral, you'll give them $10. Most likely, they will gladly ask the patient, or at least make a brochure or something.
You know what I thought was funny is when I went to my practice in '87 in Phoenix, and built this $1 million practice right out of the gate, and everybody just said, you were so lucky, you're at the right place at the right time. And think about this. I was in the right place at the right time. I was born in Wichita, Kansas, and moved 1,000 miles, so I was lucky I was in the right place at the right time. But number two, you know what I did every evening and weekend when I had no patients? I got a map of my Ahwatukee, my zip code 8544, and I walked down every single street, knocking on the door. They come to the door, and I just say, hey, my name's Howard Farran. I just want to tell you that, right, 48th and Elliott, that Today's Dental, that's me. And I'm going to practice here till the day I die. And I just thought I'd walk the neighborhood and just meet people and just say, hey, if you ever need a dentist, I'm right there. And then I give my business card or whatever. I knocked on every single door in my zip code in my evenings and weekends, and it took me half a year. And here it is 28 years later. I still have a saying, I still remember. I still remember when awesome. You actually and I just thought that was just natural. I mean, that's what you would do if you were running for mayor.
Yeah.
That's what you were doing if you were trying to win a city council. And I have as much passion about oral health as I do.
Right now, you're making people freak out. You do know that, right? Because you know what? The other part is we're all lazy. And the truth is, it's just a soft culture. And I mean, the reality is, right? If you're hungry, go knock on doors, right? You're hungry. You're doing what you got to do. Today, it's amazing how people have literally about what they do for a living. They don't have any passion about it, right? It's like, I'm not going to knock on doors.
What's sad is when every consultant, there's just things consultants don't want to talk about because it might be considered bad or whatever. But every consultant will tell you that the worst thing for a client is that he was born in the United States. That their Asian doctors will come out of dental school and they'll work 7 days a week for 3 years without blinking. But the American kid who grew up playing Nintendo and eating Cheetos, you can't even get him to work Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Right. I mean, they'll open up Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. But the kid from Kathmandu, oh my God, he'll take a toothache at 7:00 at night on a Tuesday.
But you know what the great news is? We figured out that the trend is changing, right? You've got all these kids coming out of dental school right now, and they're being, I call it brainwashing, which is probably an exaggeration, not to own their own practices. Okay, they have that work ethic. Okay, and then you got a lot of females, and so the truth is, for a guy who's in his 50s who's getting tired, we have the best window that has ever existed to hire these kids. And even if you get 2 of them and one works 3 days, another works 3 days, because they don't want ownership. They're not going to do what it takes, but you can, as long as they know what they're doing clinically, you can plug them into your practice and do incredibly well. And but it's like, instead of doing that, people are selling their practices for nothing, instead of building them up to what they should be, which is a shame.
Well, I thought it was funny in the 50s, mom and dad would have a restaurant for 30 years, and they lived in this town of 5,000. They were born in it. They went to church and school with them. And McDonald's would come in, and they would open up their restaurant, and in 30 days, the mom and pop would be bankrupt. Right. And everybody would say that McDonald's was so bad. And Ray Kroc used to just say, well, if you were born and raised in this town, how did you not know 60% of them wanted to drive through?
They weren't serving.
How did we know in Des Plaines, Illinois, and you didn't know, and you were born in Parsons, Kansas, and these dentists, they'll say, well, these corporate, they're hiring all these young kids. There's 168 hours in a week, and they're open 32. So that's 19%. So they're closed 81% of the week. And then you say to that guy, well, when you're closed 81% of the week, how many times did an incoming call come?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's one of the tricks I've made a great living off of is
what?
Solving that one right there, right? I mean, it's one of the things that we do right on the front is you have to fix it, right?
Yeah.
Get the phone answered. Just the times you don't answer it, right?
And so they don't even know who's calling and begging with a toothache to come in on Thursday night, all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. But by gosh, when a corporation opens up and solves that problem, then they blame it on the corporation.
Oh, absolutely.
And it seems like dentists have they've in the last 4 years, I've seen more things blamed on the government, the economy, Obama. It's just they blame it on everything except the man in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, we grew our company very big during the worst economic conditions. And one of the reasons why that happened is I told those guys, I said, listen, I don't care who you are, where you are. All you got to do is strap yourself to me. I'm going to tell you what to do. And I'll promise you, I'll make your practice as big as it's ever been, because everyone else is going to be on pause, right? And so the guys that stepped up over the last 7 years have grown. We've taken market share. And it's been just a wonderful thing, because people are waiting for the economy to get good. Now, you want to know what happens now? Now that things are perceived to be better, they're worse than they were. I mean, it doesn't change people's behavior. Now, they're not doing it. They're not doing more because it's good. That's a false belief system, right?
Yeah. So I want to, you're a salesman. Wrap this up. Give them a close. If they're interested in Jay Geier, the scheduling institute, how do they find you? How do they call you?
I'll tell you two things, right? I'll just say a couple things. If you are interested in doing what it takes, right, we're glad to have you. If you're looking to not do anything and you're looking to get it free and you're looking to not put any effort in, I'm not interested, right? 'Cause I mean, I got plenty of clients. So the truth is, if you want to know what we do, you can go to our site, which is schedulinginstitute.com.
The Scheduling Institute? Or
it's just Scheduling Institute.
Just scheduling. So spell that for English as a second language.
Yeah, spelled out, right?
SCHEDULING
and then institute.com. And then what you do is there's usually a place where you can fill in, you give us your information. And what I do, I give every client a person value before they even become a client. So what I would do if you go there is I will have someone on my team at my expense do an evaluation on how you answer the phones, just like I did for you, at no cost. I spend money to do that. And then I will send that to you, and we'll have a conversation with you about it, and we'll show you how much money you're missing, because we have all the data now. I mean, after doing this as much as I've done it, we can assess a practice, we can tell you what your upside is, and then what we like to do is we like to get that first deliverable. So we will track what you had before you became our client, we'll track what you had after, and we just want to show you how everything we do will pay for itself and make a profit. And the truth is, we can do it with your staff if you don't want to put a lot of energy and effort into it. And that's where we like to start. That's it. I mean, that's because I like to prove what we can do before we go on.
Is there a phone number they can call?
Yes. You know what? 770-518-7575. So
And I always tell my friends or post on social media, when I'm going to go meet someone, just see what people say.
Yeah.
And one of my friends said, is Jay Geier, is a scheduling institute, is that better urban, rural? Is it better in some geographies? Like what if, is this better for like a big town of like Atlanta or Phoenix or New York? I mean, or what if it was small rural?
But
Are
remember,
there any differences?
What we do happens in the office. And so it's not external marketing. So it isn't even like the fallacy of that is it wouldn't matter where they were, right? I can tell you there's better places to externally market, but I will tell you that what we do happens inside of every office, and it doesn't matter where the office is. And so I've learned to make new patients go up with the person who's there, no matter what. And you don't have, see, they think they need to be marketing to make this happen, and it's all a fallacy. And so it does not matter, literally.
Well, we are out of time, and I just want to say a couple things. I want to say a couple things. Number one, thank you so much for helping my office personally. Welcome. And I'm sorry that my best friend had to tell me for 3 years before I took
That's all right. That's all right.
And number two, I want to tell everybody listening to everybody that logs on to Dental Town. It's a free website, and you get it free because of advertisers. And Jay, you have been our #1 advertiser, supporter, sponsor for years. And this is the man that makes your website, your podcast. This is the guy that's making all your stuff free. You're my #1 supporter.
That's awesome.
Thank you for supporting my mission.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.